Hey everybody, today I want to talk about drop D tuning. Now if you're unfamiliar with what drop D is, you basically take your normal tuned guitar, which is usually E, A, D, G, B, E from top to bottom, and you drop that lower string down a full step to a D instead of an E. And the kind of idea that made me want to talk about this was a comment that somebody made to me, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, and it just kind of popped in my head recently. And he said something along the lines of, when I had my guitar with me and I was just jamming, like I just picked it up out of the case and it was already in drop D, and I was just, messing around playing some chords and stuff. And he's like, wow, you're playing in drop D? I thought people stopped playing drop D in the 90s or something along those lines. And I was just really taken aback by that, because I didn't really feel like drop D should be kept in the past or something. Like, for example, a lot of the stuff that I write is in drop D because it very specifically inspires me to write a certain way, and I don't really know why that is, but when I'm in drop D versus, say, standard tuning or something, I play differently. And I've written a lot of songs in the, I don't know, 4 or 5 albums I've put out in the last few years in drop D. There's definitely plenty in standard as well, but I feel like a lot of those have their own sort of vibes. Most of what I grew up listening to, I would say, would probably be in standard tuning. I spent a lot of time listening to bands like Rush, who mostly stay in standard tuning, but they do have some drop D songs, like, for example, one of my favorites called Stick It Out. And so on. Blink-182 is obviously one of my favorite bands. They influenced me very early on, but most of their stuff was in standard tuning or some sort of baritone tuning, even, which didn't account for much, but there was a few of those. Off the top of my head, I can personally think of one drop D song, which was Kaleidoscope. There could have been a few more, especially after I stopped listening to them once Tom left. I don't know what they've done for tuning since, but we'll say like 99% of that was in standard tuning. But for some reason, when I would hear songs like, let's say, Everlong from Foo Fighters, that chord right there, like, that just does something to me, like, spiritually. I can't really explain it, but it's definitely achievable when you're in standard tuning. Something like this. It's that kind of chord. I don't really know chord names and whatever that well, but I do know that certain chords just speak to me in certain ways. So, when I hear something like, I don't know, it makes me want to write certain ways, and it makes me want to write riffy things, and I don't know, I don't feel like drop D should be thought of as, like an easy way out kind of thing, or something that's, stuck in the past. A lot of people think of it as, like an easy way out, because instead of doing, your standard power chord, say like this, that kind of shape, you can literally just bar across the first few notes and get a cool sounding chord. Yeah, it is easier, but it also gives you access to different sort of things, and it does make some other chords easier, not necessarily just, but I couldn't pull off those chords, in a standard tuning. And those are just the types of chords that I just keep coming back to. You know what I mean? So, I mean, let me run through some of my songs, show you some of the riffs that I've particularly written in drop D, and I don't know. We'll see what happens after that. So, you know, the first song on my first EP is called "I Can't Believe You Came," and the main riff in the song goes like this. You know, that first part, I couldn't do that in standard tuning. So it just gives like a wider spectrum of notes to go through. The second song off of that EP is also in drop D, and honestly, it's probably still one of my favorite riffs that I've ever written. Goes like this. Something about that chord just, it hits me, you know, in my soul. I can't get enough of that. You know, it's like that kind of thing. What else do we have? My song Valor from that same EP. That song's kind of complicated because a lot of it was written in drop D, but some of it was written in, I want to say, D standard. So in order to play the whole song, you would technically have to do like D, A, D, G, but then drop this B to an A, I think, and this E to a D in order to get some of those higher parts. But anyway, like, for example, here's a riff that I wrote for that song. So, I mean, it's using like a lot of single note stuff, but it's also using some of those chords too. And then there's a whole section before that too. That's kind of like a similar vibe that goes through a lot of those same notes. That's just really fun to play. It's really satisfying. Then we get to my second album with Vigor. You know, the very first song, the opening song. Sometimes I forget how to play my own songs. This song is easily one of my favorite songs that I've written. Just as a player's standpoint, it's really fun to play. It's got a lot of fun little passages in there that are 100% made possible by drop D. So here's one of them. That song, of course, is called "Now Your Back's Gonna Hurt," if you're unfamiliar. What else do we got? I have them all written down here just so I don't miss anything. Here's a song called "I Feel Like a Big Mouse" from the same album. This one, the tuning's a little different, and one thing I will say is a lot of these songs are half a step down as well as in, you know, that drop tuning. So a couple of them will be technically drop D flat, but it's still the same structure. It's still the same like chord patterns, I guess I could say. But this song, "I Feel Like a Big Mouse," is half step down, drop D, so technically drop D flat, but it has a capo on the second fret because I wanted to have a song that was just in a different key from the rest of the album. I wanted to mix it up a little bit, so I'm not going to do that for this demonstration, but for example, it sounds like this. So, another really fun song to play. That's honestly probably my most difficult song to play, in my opinion. People ask me that a lot. Like, what do you think is the most challenging song you've written? It's probably that one. There's a lot of fast little bits in that one. Another song from this same album is called Green Canaries. And let's see if I can remember exactly how to do But yeah, that whole passage I pretty much do just tapping on a fretboard. I don't actually pick a lot of it. But yeah, that song's pretty fun. There's also a part later in the song that I like. And that's just kind of like a background riff that eventually fades out the song that I think was pretty cool. Now we move on to my album Loud Noises, and this album actually doesn't have a lot of drop D in it. I believe it only has a couple songs, one of which is called Landscaping Duty, and this song has a lot going on, but and it's definitely a heavy song, but the verses are kind of quiet. You know, they don't have too much going on, but they have this one little riff that I always thought was really cool that actually kind of coined the original name of the demo that I wrote, which was just called Slidey Thing, because well, you'll see I'm just sliding all over the place. So yeah, there's that song on Loud Noises. I do a acoustic song called Seafoam on that album that's in drop D. Not in my usual open E flat like I usually do. But most of that album is actually in standard. For some reason, I was just really getting into standard tuning around that time, and it was inspiring me in a different way. You know, that's just kind of what this whole video is about. You know, like when I'm in drop D, or if I'm in E standard, or you know, open E flat like I do most of my acoustic stuff, it just inspires me to write in different ways, and it kind of breaks me out of my shell. And I don't feel like, you know, anybody should be, you know, ashamed to write most of their stuff in one tuning. You know, there's nothing wrong with drop D. There's nothing wrong with, you know, E flat, or, you know, drop C, whatever you want. You know, there's a million different tunings out there, and they all really have their uses. You just have to really figure out what works for you and what is going to inspire you the most to write. You know, I was just very lucky to find out that, you know, drop D just works for me. And I do have a new EP coming out, as I've, you know, kind of teased in the recent past. Every song on that EP is in drop D because I wanted to kind of keep it themed. I wanted to be able to run through the whole album from front to back without having to do any tuning changes, and I just felt like drop D just needed a little bit more spotlight, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of love. One of the songs, still in its demo form, that I'm going to show you a riff from, I've literally just been calling it another drop D riff. Because at that point it was the third one I had written for the album before I had even decided that everything was going to be in it. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really love the tuning. I will always probably have a guitar in drop D tuning, and I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to know what you guys think. You know, let me know what your favorite drop D tuning songs are. There's a lot of really great ones out there. You know, the ones that come to mind. What's Her Name by Green Day is a great one. I really like that one. Kaleidoscope from Blink, like I said, was really great. There's a lot of good 90s stuff, like this guy said, you know, like Soundgarden and Foo Fighters, and a lot of like indie bands, you know, were doing that sort of thing. But yeah, give me some specifics. I'm very curious. Very curious to see what you guys think, or, you know, let me know what kind of tunings you guys like to play. So, like I said, this is a quick riff from another drop D riff. You know, before it gets officially named, and yeah, that's about it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.